In the depths of the internet, an anonymous figure changed the world forever. Imagine waking up one morning to find that the entire financial system, the system we've been told to trust, has been rewritten. Banks, irrelevant. Governments, powerless. Your money, truly yours. No gatekeepers. No middlemen. No one standing between you and your wealth. Sounds impossible, right? Something out of a cyberpunk novel? But this isn't fiction. This is Bitcoin. A digital currency that appeared seemingly out of nowhere, born from lines of code, fueled by cryptographic ingenuity, and designed to challenge the most powerful institutions on the planet. And behind it all, a ghost, a myth, a person, or maybe a collective, hidden behind a pseudonym that would go down in history. Satoshi Nakamoto. But who is Satoshi? A lone genius? A group of rebel cryptographers? A secret government project? And the biggest question of all, why did they vanish just as Bitcoin began to rise? Did they disappear by choice? Were they forced into hiding? Or were they never really here at all? Today we embark on a journey through the Book of Satoshi, a collection of the cryptic writings, emails, and forum posts left behind by Bitcoin's elusive creator, the battles fought in the early days of Bitcoin, and the chilling, unexplained disappearance of Satoshi Nakamoto. Because somewhere in these writings lies the truth. Buckle up, the rabbit hole goes deep. Let's get started. Chapter 1. The birth of Bitcoin. Flashback to 2008. The world is in chaos. Stock markets are collapsing. Banks, those towering institutions once believed to be untouchable, are crumbling, one after another. Governments are printing trillions of dollars out of thin air to bail them out, while ordinary people lose their homes, their savings, their faith in the system. Fear grips the streets. Protesters chant in frustration. The financial elite reassure the world. Trust us. We have it under control. But deep in the corners of the internet, a different kind of voice emerges. A new idea, a new vision. A revolution quietly taking shape. And then, like a digital prophecy, a message appears on an obscure cryptography mailing list, a place where mathematicians, hackers, and privacy advocates discuss ways to build a world free from surveillance and centralized control. Satoshi Nakamoto wrote, "I've been working on a new electronic cash system that's fully peer-to-peer, with no trusted third party." It was short, precise. No introductions, no explanations. Just a single email and a link to a paper titled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. Most ignored it. Some laughed at it. A few, however, leaned in closer. Satoshi wasn't just talking. They had built it. A few months later, on January 3rd, 2009, the world changed forever. In an unmarked corner of cyberspace, the first ever Bitcoin transaction was recorded. This was block 0, the Genesis block, a moment in history, a digital birth. But embedded within it was something more than just numbers and code. A hidden message, a warning, a declaration of war. This wasn't just code. This was a statement, a direct call out to the broken system Bitcoin was designed to replace. A system where the rich gambled with people's lives, and when they lost, the people paid the price. Satoshi's message was clear. Enough. This wasn't just a new form of money. This was a rebellion against the gatekeepers of wealth, a weapon against corruption, a financial system that belonged to the people, not the banks, not the governments, not the elites. But what Satoshi didn't know, or maybe they did, was that this small, quiet beginning would spark a revolution that no one could contain. And soon the world would take notice. The story was just getting started. Chapter 2, The Rise of Bitcoin. But how does Bitcoin even work? To understand Bitcoin, we need to rethink everything we know about money. For centuries, money has relied on trust in governments, in banks, in middlemen who tell us how much we have, who can access it, and when we can use it. But what if money didn't require trust at all? What if it was purely mathematical, immune to corruption, manipulation, and inflation? That's what Bitcoin set out to achieve. Instead of banks keeping track of who owns what, Bitcoin runs on something entirely different, a decentralized ledger called the blockchain. Imagine a massive book that records every single transaction ever made. But instead of sitting in a bank vault, this book is public, shared across thousands, eventually millions of computers worldwide. Every time someone sends or receives Bitcoin, a new line is written in this book. But here's the twist: no one can erase it, and no single entity controls it. The blockchain makes Bitcoin practically unhackable, because changing even a single transaction would require rewriting the entire history of Bitcoin on every computer at once. And that's impossible. But at the start, Bitcoin was just an idea, a radical concept, a curious experiment that few believed in. It had no official price. Only a handful of cryptographers and programmers were mining it. Most people thought it was worthless, just another nerd project destined to fade away. But then, something incredible happened. Bitcoin wasn't just a concept, it started gaining real value. And it all began with a man who was just hungry for pizza. Location: Florida, USA. A programmer named Laszlo Hanieks, one of the early Bitcoin enthusiasts, wanted to prove that Bitcoin could be used for real-world transactions. So, he went on an internet forum and posted a now legendary offer. I'll pay 10,000 Bitcoins for 2 large pizzas. At the time, Bitcoin was so obscure that there was no market for it. No one knew how much it was worth, because, well, no one had ever spent it before. But one person, intrigued by the idea, accepted the offer. They ordered 2 pizzas from Papa John's and had them delivered to Laszlo's house. For the first time in history, Bitcoin had been used as real money. At the time, 10,000 Bitcoin was worth about $41. Today, the 10,000 BTC equals millions of dollars. That's right, those 2 pizzas, cheesy, delicious, and probably gone within hours, became the most expensive pizzas ever purchased. And this moment became legendary in the Bitcoin world. It proved something important. Bitcoin wasn't just an idea, it was real. It could be used, it had value. And from that day on, Bitcoin never looked back. This was just the beginning, because once people realized that Bitcoin could actually be used, everything started changing. Fast. The first Bitcoin exchanges popped up. More people started mining. The community grew beyond just cryptographers and tech geeks. And soon, Bitcoin wasn't just an underground experiment anymore. It was becoming unstoppable. But as Bitcoin's price began to rise, so did something else. Suspicion, fear, and the looming presence of powerful institutions that did not want this new financial system to succeed. The battle was about to begin. Stay tuned, because next, we uncover the moment Bitcoin went from obscure digital cash to a threat that governments and banks couldn't ignore. Chapter 3: The Fall of Satoshi. But just as Bitcoin was beginning to take its first steps into the world, just as it was gaining real momentum, something strange happened. Satoshi Nakamoto vanished. December 12, 2010, their last public post on the Bitcoin forum. A simple message about software updates with no hint that it would be their final words. A final email to a fellow developer. I've moved on to other things, it's in good hands now, and then, silence. No grand farewell, no explanation, no trace. Just like that, they were gone. But why? The world had only just begun to notice Bitcoin. Media outlets were starting to pick up the story. Financial institutions were whispering about this strange new internet money. Governments were beginning to take interest, and perhaps so were their regulators. Did Satoshi see the storm coming? The theories behind Satoshi's disappearance? Theory number 1: fear of government retaliation. Some believe Satoshi left to protect themselves. After all, history has not been kind to those who challenge the financial system. The world was still recovering from the financial collapse, and governments were scrambling to maintain control. Bitcoin, an unregulated, decentralized form of money, was a direct threat to that control. In 2011, WikiLeaks, an organization famous for exposing government secrets, announced they would start accepting Bitcoin donations after being banned by PayPal and Visa. Satoshi's response? It would have been nice to get this attention in any other context. WikiLeaks has kicked the hornet's nest, and the swarm is headed towards us. Shortly after, they disappeared. Was it a coincidence? Or did Satoshi realize that their creation was becoming too powerful and too dangerous? Theory number 2, Satoshi wanted true decentralization. What if Satoshi Nakamoto wasn't forced out but chose to leave? From the very beginning, Bitcoin was designed to serve no leader. Unlike traditional currencies, it wasn't controlled by banks or governments. But as long as Satoshi remained active, there was always the risk that they would become a central figure, a person the world could turn to for answers, or worse, a target for control. By disappearing, Satoshi ensured that Bitcoin would remain exactly as intended, an unstoppable, decentralized force, no one to arrest, no one to bribe, no one to silence. Theory number 3, Satoshi never existed. And then there's the wildest theory of all. What if Satoshi Nakamoto was never a person at all? Some believe that Satoshi was actually a group of people, a team of cryptographers, mathematicians, and software developers working together in secret. Others speculate that Satoshi was an intelligence agency, perhaps the NSA, Japan's National Institute of Informatics, or even a deeply hidden government project designed to test the concept of digital money before allowing the world to embrace it. And then there are those who take the conspiracy even further. What if Satoshi was a time traveler? A gift to humanity sent to free us from the control of centralized financial powers. Crazy? Maybe, but so was Bitcoin. And look how that turned out. More than a decade has passed since Satoshi Nakamoto vanished. In that time, Bitcoin has become a global financial force, shaking the very foundations of money as we know it. From being worth pennies to becoming a trillion-dollar asset. From an obscure idea to being adopted by governments, corporations, and investors worldwide. And yet, Satoshi's 1 million Bitcoins remain untouched. No withdrawals, no transfers, no sign that Satoshi ever intends to return. So, we ask you, was Satoshi Nakamoto a brilliant mind who vanished to protect themselves? Or did they disappear to make sure Bitcoin could stand on its own? Or perhaps they never left at all, because in every Bitcoin transaction, in every block added to the blockchain, in every person who believes in the power of decentralized money, Satoshi lives on. What do you think? Drop your theories in the comments below. Chapter 4: The Legacy of Satoshi Nakamoto. But whether Satoshi Nakamoto was one person, a collective of brilliant minds, or even a time traveler, yes, some people seriously believe this. One thing is undeniable: their vision changed the world. What started as a cryptographic experiment, a whispered idea in an obscure corner of the internet, has become one of the greatest financial revolutions in history. Now governments are scrambling. They see Bitcoin as a threat, an uncontrollable force that operates outside their reach. Banks are panicking. Once the gatekeepers of wealth, they now face a decentralized system that doesn't need them. No central authority, no printing money at will, just pure financial freedom. And the world? The world is watching. As Bitcoin's value has soared into the trillions, its impact has stretched beyond just finance. It's influencing politics, global economics, even how we define the very concept of money itself. But the question still lingers. What really happened to Satoshi Nakamoto? Were they a genius ahead of their time, setting the foundation for a financial revolution, before quietly stepping away? Were they forced into hiding, knowing that their creation was a direct challenge to the most powerful institutions on Earth? Or is it possible they never left at all, watching, waiting, ensuring Bitcoin's legacy remains intact? Perhaps somewhere out there, Satoshi is still mining in silence, still observing, still holding, What do you think? Did Satoshi vanish to protect themselves? Did they ever exist as a single person? And most importantly, will they ever return? Drop your theories in the comments below. And if you love deep dives into tech mysteries, finance revolutions, and the future of money, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.